All right, so we are live now. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the new episode of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I'm the creator of the host of this channel, and I'm of course the host of the show. So, for the benefit of new viewers, Global Citizens is a show that is created in order to host third culture kids, digital nomads, and expatriates as they share their experience living abroad, working, and growing up overseas. So my guest for today is an individual that when I just look at the LinkedIn, it is one of the most impressive resume I have ever seen. And this man is Mr. Alberto Antinucci. So Alberto, the stage is yours. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Calvin, for putting me in your show. Yeah, I'm Italian. I was born and raised in Venice some time ago. Yeah, about 50 years ago.
Oh wow.
And for several reasons, I found out that my business. I mean, I was early stage into working, and I found myself very passionate about electronics and new electronic developments and stuff like that. So I found that all of the products I was using to develop new products and to develop new projects were coming out from a small place. There was a small tag in every item, but says made in Taiwan ROC. And I said, I like this ROC stuff. I like rock. I want to rock. And so I decided that Taiwan would have been my destination to develop my business and my purposes. When I landed in Taiwan, I found a complete different place from what I was expecting to, and it was amazing. I mean, I thought it was my El Dorado, and I thought it was definitely what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I was on my early 19 years, and I said, okay, let's pack our stuff, give a resignation letter for the company I was working for, and I moved to Taipei. I just did that without even thinking about cultural differences, problems, and stuff. So it's been a complete different approach from whoever can think about it. Okay, I just thought that why not do it? I mean, what could be wrong with it? Okay, what problem may I have? I mean, and at the end of the day, whatever problem I may have, it would be anyway a great experience. So I was ready and open to do anything. There was not a much bigger thought behind it. Okay, and so I did. It was 1988 that time. So it's been quite some time since I did that, and I never regretted one single time what my experience was. It was great. A lot of people I met, a lot of things. I did a lot of connections with a lot of people, and run a very nice business. And here we are. I'm back. I mean, I'm always on track, and I never stopped anything.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, I mean, right now you are really an established individual, yeah. So whenever you want to approach a business, it won't be much a problem to you. But when you first started doing it, especially at the age of 19 years old, just now you mentioned, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So when you are 19 years old, you are in a foreign land. How do you actually approach like a managing director or CEO on how to engage your service on how to do business with you
Well,
back then?
that was a tricky question. I mean, it's a tricky question because I never thought I was an IT analyst guy. I mean, what I thought, okay, but okay, let's put it this way, okay, because it's a very complicated questions. Okay, when you move on a bigger things than you really are, I mean, when what you're really doing, okay, you always fear of what other people think about you. Okay, you always fear you're too young. You always fear they know too much. You always fear they're smarter than you. They always fear many issues. Okay, that inhibit you from doing the right things at the right way. Okay, so basically, how I did it was simply not to think about all of these things, but just to keep in mind that whoever I was talking to had a longer experience than me, and it was definitely smarter than I was. So I try not to be the small guy in the room. I try just to be be passionate, honest, and delivering guy for the purposes I put myself into. So when you are in a position, and at that time, I mean, 30 years ago in Taiwan, I was the only Italian to running his own business. There were about 90 Italians in the island. 80 of them were priests or nuns. A couple of them were major managing director for big state corporations, I mean Italian state corporations, and the other were few students. Okay, there was not it was not a popular place. I mean, every time I tell my friends I'm going to Taiwan, they say, "Oh, nice massage," and I say, "No, that's Thailand. That's not Taiwan." Okay, and so you can imagine that Taiwan was not even taken into consideration in the world map. It was outside on any possible reach. I mean, it was such a crazy thing that people don't even realize how crazy it was. But for me, it was just a natural move. I mean, I wanted to put myself in the center of the world. I wanted to put myself where things were happening. And I mean, once you're there, then things happen. I mean, you are at the right place at the right time with the right people asking you things, and then you just have to decide if you want to deliver or not. I mean, just to put yourself into the game or not. Okay, and this is very important. So it doesn't really matter who you have in front of you. It matters what you can give to them. And even if I had no experience, no cultural background of a country, no whatever, I could deliver my position. So I was there while they had to go back to their country. So they could count on someone being there and be at their service. And secondly, they could count on someone who was trustworthy. I mean, a young guy who was investing everything in whatever he had, so that he was not there to cheat or to trick anyone. I was there to work my life out. I was there to make a difference for me first and for the other secondly. And this happened very often. This happened very often. I was sitting. I was sitting on the table with big guys. I mean, coming from Europe, coming from America, managing directors of big corporations, but they were looking for someone who could deal with them, who could help them to sort out, who could be their interface, their contact, their interface in a country where they had nobody they could really trust. Okay, and or really understand, because anyway there was a big cultural gap. I mean, the West and the East, they always have a lot of differences in terms of mindset and thinking. Okay, but all of these differences are not basically on what you study, but they're differences on how you were grew up and how you were where you what you sow and what you eat and what you breathe throughout your young age. That's the way you become a man. Okay, that's the way you become an individual. Okay, it's the location where you come from that gives you certain characteristics. Okay, and this was my selling point. I mean, I was an Italian, so I was a Westerner with a Western education. Okay, but I was very much paying attention to details, and I could simply see things that the Chinese could not, and that was my worth, my value.
That's actually a very. That's. I'm glad you actually said that. So recently, my father and I were in a business connection with our Chinese with a Chinese. So okay, I'm actually Chinese Indonesian. Yeah. So
Mhm.
maybe to specify is Chinese from the mainland. So one of the thing that we noticed with them is that they tend to be somebody who demanded quick results. However, when you requested for them to do the same, like maybe let's say if okay, there's actually a friend of mine called Varnan that actually it was really looking forward to this episode is because he's actually dealing with a client from China. So one thing about him is that he need to execute his work fast. However, like when he was trying to receive the initial investment, it was taking him a lot of time to actually persuade the people from China. Do you actually encounter this last time? And also, how do
Uh,
you handle it?
Now, this is a very true point. Okay, I just finished to write a book, and
Oh, okay.
and in this book, one thing that I wrote a lot about is how the time perception is so different from the West compared to the Chinese, and time is a very big issue. To us, and I mean, you Chinese originate but living and growth in Indonesia, so you still have an Indonesian background cultures that helps you maybe to
Correct.
understand it better. Okay, but you pointed out exactly the real problem behind it. Okay, so when they ask you for things, they want it right away, and when they have to give back things, okay, they takes a lifetime. It's simply because for them time is relative. Let me talk for the Westerners, okay, and not for the Indonesians, which I know, but not as much as you do, definitely. But
I
the
actually
Westerners,
grew up
for
more
us,
in Singapore, so it's fun.
yeah, definitely, and you also know that Singapore it's been a mixed culture, so it's a bit of a West and a bit of a East altogether. So you
Correct.
still have a lot of contrast somehow. Okay, the time issue, okay, it's relative because they need their own time to develop things, but in particular they give you time to exhaust you. I mean, when yeah, it's a very interesting point. I
Yeah.
agree with you, but when they ask you to do things, okay, and they just start to push you on their answers, and you think, oh, this is great, we're gonna do that very fast, we're gonna deliver immediately whatever it is that they need, and you work your project out so that you can really deliver all of the things, all of the information and everything, all details at your best, because you believe that time is money. The shorter the time, the more the money, or the longer the time, the higher the expenses, so the less the profit. Okay, so um, this comparison is not applicable to the Chinese. The Chinese are doing many things at the same time.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
true.
if there is something else which is more profitable and more immediate to get result from, uh, instead of what you're doing, okay, they will focus on the other project and they will just put you aside. That will stress you out. That will force you to do some bad move, okay, and so they will get a winning position in compared to you. So their strategy is, okay, I don't care about it now. Let's work it out later when the right time is coming. And when the right time is coming, maybe it's too late for you to see it as a profitable business as it used to be, and then you just accept it for desperation. Okay, so they are winning over you just because they waited for time. So yeah, it happened very often, but this is part of their mentality. This is part of their long plan strategy, their 25 years plans, their 5 years plan, the 50 years plan. All of these things, they have a reason behind it, and the reason is in their culture, in their continuous
Continue.
support. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you have to make sure to show that your business is the one that is most profitable in order to really, really change their focus. Am I correct to say that?
They have to understand that your business, if the business they want to invest,
Oh,
and you have to give them a tick and talk. I mean, it has to be something that either they take it now or it's gone. I mean, look at how they work. To the bus, okay. For instance, a company, Xiaomi. Xiaomi is a huge company. It was
yes.
first done for their mobile phones, but they do every accessories. They do from the vacuum dust to rice cookers to with electric scooters to whatever. They do a
Yep.
lot of
They
things,
do a
but
lot.
every product they choose, they say, okay, we're gonna do the best products with the best quality, and we're gonna deliver to you within 5 days from the order, but we only have a million pieces available at this best price, so take it or leave it. So what happened is that they put it on sales, it's gonna be the first 1 million people. So the first 1 million pieces sold. So as soon as they got all of the payment for the products, then they decided to put it on production. Then they deliver the first 1 million pieces, and that's it. But that means that they absorb all of the cost of first production. They have already a marketplace which is there to deliver. Okay, so
Yes.
people who try a vast marketplace, and the product is being requested by a big community. That means that they can do some more and just put it then back on offline shops. Okay, but that product is no more available online, so you won't see it online anymore unless from some other reseller. So their first launch was very short in time. Within 5 days, they're gonna manufacture the first 1 million units, okay, for a very incredible price, and they do it. That's it. So they push you to buy, and there are people who do that, and it's the same activities that the KOL or the influencer are doing now on online with their streamings. When they go like, okay, the first people that buy whatever item, it doesn't matter if it is cosmetic, if it is a car, or if it is anything. Okay, they just put a limited time for a limited quantity at a very special price, and they sell it. Okay, so that's how they put it. So they give themselves a rush, a time pressure, and that's how they work. But for the rest, they have a time to wait and see it offline and see whether you wanna pay for more and then get it offline sometime soon later. So you don't have a privilege to have it first.
Yeah, that does make sense. After dealing with them for at least a few months now, that does make sense.
It does. I mean, it does make sense also that you could, if you are sure that they are the right partner. Okay, just play with them and tell them, okay, guys, we've been waiting for so long, so we have other people asking us to sign a deal with them, and I told them that in 2 days I'll give them an answer. So either you give me a positive answer in 2 days, or I'm gonna go on and work with the others. I know it's risky sometimes. You should better have a second offer from someone else, okay?
Sure.
But definitely you have to put them on this time pressure, and you will see that they will move. Otherwise, it will just keep you on waiting, and you get exhausted. You get
Exactly.
on. That's one of our strategy. They don't even know it's a strategy. They do it. They do it from school. They do it from the family. They do every time these kind of things just because it's a very way they grow. It is, yeah.
Okay. When years ago, when you were still trying to make your way in the Chinese market, yeah. Do you
Mhm.
ever encountered, okay, I don't want to call it failure, because the reason why is because my previous guest actually want to use a nicer term for it called learning opportunity. So do you ever encountered any kind of unique learning opportunity due to the cultural differences, and how does it actually has changed the way how you view things, how you think as a person? How does it change your character and your point of view?
Okay, so the question actually is, have you ever failed, and how did you come out of your failure, right?
Yeah, correct. But yeah, this is actually a
Okay.
feedback from my
Well,
previous
there is
guest, so
nothing.
I
There is
kind of like
nothing. You see, Calvin, there is nothing to be ashamed about failing. I mean, it happens all the time. I fail in the morning when I wake up and I put my coffee out of a cup. Okay, that's a small failure. I need to pay more attention, to be more careful. I fail. I fail every day. I mean, we all fail every day. We just don't consider those failure. We just consider them learning path. Okay, so there
correct.
is no problem asking such a question. Okay, and the answer is yes. Definitely yes. If you want, I can tell you a story about my biggest failure. I mean, I was working with this Taiwanese partner I had. Okay, keep in mind that at that time, foreigners could not own any enterprise in Taiwan. I mean, if you
Mm.
wanted to have your own company, you had to have 7 Chinese partners, 7 Taiwanese
Wow.
partners. Okay, and you could anyway, your shares could not be over 49%. So the Chinese partner had the majority. So the agreement I had with the company I was working for to collect the money, deliver the products, and do the QA was to get the price. I mean, find the suppliers and the products. Okay, I could put on my percentage, my commission, and out of what we made, okay, we split this commission 60-40. 60 for them to cover the cost of the logistics and everything, 40% for me, which was my
Yep.
net income. Okay, and it was a good deal. I mean, out of the millions of dollars of revenue, it was definitely a good deal. One day, anyway, I realized that the purchasing cost that they were claiming to pay for the goods was not exactly what it was supposed to be. That
Yep.
meant that out of the $100 that they tell me, okay, this is my cost is 100. Okay, then I put 10% on it, so I'm selling it for 110, and I should get 4. Okay, and they should keep 60. Actually, their purchasing cost was probably 90, not 100. Okay, so they already had a 10 up on it, and that stressed me out a lot because I felt like being cheated. I felt like being uh, misregarded to the agreement, to the original agreement I had. Okay, so I wanted to face the owner of a company. I wanted to face my partner, and I said. And that's where I made a mistake. Okay, I faced him in the office in front of everybody. So there
Mm.
was an argument, okay, where my Italian character came all out, and I was raising my voice, shaking my hand, making a big drama out of it, like he has killed me on something. I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars profit a year, okay, and I was blaming him because he was taking away money from my profit without telling me. And I definitely was right, okay? But the way I talked to him in front of everybody put him in a bad position. I let him
Mm.
lose his face. I let other people
Yes.
doubt on the integrity of being a correct boss, okay? So that issue basically ended up with me telling him, okay, I'm going and I will start to do my own business on my own without using your facilities anymore. To make a long story short, it ended up that I had to start from zero. I had to build
Mm.
up everything. So I went to Malaysia, opened a company there, and then the branch office in Taiwan, which was the easiest way since Hong Kong at that time was not seen well by Taiwan. And I invested a lot of money. I spent a lot of money on this, and I had to build up a new team. And I was a foreign boss. I was young. I was 21. I was, somehow alone in the field. Okay, and I had to learn everything that before I was given for granted. So I basically failed under that point of view because I did not do my interest complaining about the money missing from my original profit. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's my
Absolutely.
failure was that I had to start again from zero. Okay,
Yes.
and I lost more money than just keeping silent. On the other hand, I started my real own stuff, and so I could really scale up in new business and get bigger and bigger, controlling everything. But it wasn't a real win. I mean, it was an independence act, but it was not a real win. In terms of profit, I was losing money compared to what I was doing before, and so yes, I I don't say I regret it because it opened up new opportunities, but it was a big mistake for me not to consider that just talking to him separately on a restaurant or in any other place where there was nobody of his employees, I could have had my boom out without having to lose the relationship and everything. So yeah.
Mm. That's actually a really good learning point. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, it
I
was.
will actually be attaching one more video in the description. It was one of your past video. I think it was with Miss Santana, if I recall correctly her name, on
Hmm.
5 areas to avoid when a Westerner is dealing with an Easterner. Yeah. So
Yeah.
aside from these five, yeah, may I ask you then, like for an Asian on the opposite end, if they want to deal with a Westerner or a Eurasian, what should they watch out for? What they should be careful of? What they should be sensitive about?
Oh, this is a very interesting question. Thank you for asking. I have seen this. I have seen that the tendency by Westerners is to get very familiar with the Eurasian or with the Asians. Okay, if I want
Yeah.
to tend to have business with. Okay, and there is this welcoming action from the Asians. They kind of try to like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and let's say that most of the Westerners that they do this, they are Americans. Americans, they're
Yes,
friends.
correct.
They're, hey, hello, buddy. Let's do things together. Okay. Still, one things I would recommend you, I said, okay, remember that they're not your buddies; they are customers.
Correct.
So keep a distance, personal distance with them in
Mm.
terms of business, and then you can do whatever you want in terms of personal, but never mix up with things.
Ah, okay.
The tendency there is in Asia, and it's also been suffered by me. Let's talk about Americans in this case. Okay, I knew American first from the movies, went from the direct business relationship. Okay, so when you see movies, you get an idea that all Americans are the same. But there are a lot. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true. I
so
mean,
is the assumption that all Asians are either mathematical nerds or either we are all no
exactly.
funky?
Exactly. Okay, and these stereotypes that we have in mind. Okay, sometimes they kind of drives our lives. Okay, our decisions. Because it thinks it's normal. Well, what you have seen on TV doesn't really have to be what you live in real life. So what I'm saying, I mean, if you ask me how should I treat a foreigner, I say you treat him with respect and think that is your source of income. Okay, and you are his source of solution to these problems. Okay, so there is a give and take relation, and keep it in mind and keep it clear, so that there will be no interference between your personal life and the business life. Then personally you can do whatever you want with him. Okay, but
Mm.
never think that he's your buddy. He hasn't grown up with you. He didn't live the same things that you did. He does not have your expertise and your experience. Okay, he has a different path, and keep it in mind that you can learn from it, but you don't have to emulate him. You don't have to pretend to be an American. You don't have to pretend to give him five, and that's all right. Okay,
Mm.
you have to understand that if your culture and your position taught you differently, then it's more valuable, okay, to keep it that way, because that's what you are and who you are, and how you deal with yourself.
So, can I correct to summarize that it's actually to treat
Please.
them as a human. Don't just immediately imagine a stereotype is that what you see in the media or maybe what you read in a book. You have to really listen and observe this individual. Am I right to say that?
Absolutely, yes, treat them as a human. Absolutely correct.
Okay. So, with 30 years of living in Asia, in around China, Suzhou, Taipei, I believe you've practically been in most part of China.
Yep.
And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you've been in China longer than I've been alive.
Absolutely, I can see that.
Yes. So from these 30 years, right? You've definitely seen the generational growth. So what potentials do you see for people in Asia to actually grow? It's because now it's the age of millennials. And there's also things like globalization, whereby they are starting to emulate the Western cultures. So, what do you think is the potential for Asians to grow actually? And since you, as an entrepreneur, you definitely you are definitely somebody who lead multiple kinds of individuals. Yeah, I believe I've asked you this before, but if you have a team full of Easterners and Westerners, right?
Yes.
What kind of mindset do you do in order to make sure that there's a harmony in the workplace?
Well, I try to give everybody in my teams, okay, their own space. I mean, what I demand from them is to be themselves. I mean, I'm not trying to employ an Eastern guy just because he can act like a Westerner. Okay,
Mm,
I if I employ a Eastern guy is because I need his Eastern culture background. If I employ a Chinese is because I want a Chinese. If I wanted a different guy, then I'll go and look for a different guy. I mean, it doesn't have to be
yeah,
misunderstood. I mean, the conception of working with someone in particular is because he can add value to what you do. And
sure,
adding value, the value need to be original value. It doesn't have to be a copycat.
sure.
Okay, so this is where all come from. Now, Asia's millennium. I mean, I've been living it, and I've been suffering it as well. Um, Asia is very big. Asia is not only
Yes,
China. Asia. I mean,
yes,
China is a big part of it. China. If you make a math, China is about 15% of the world population. I
yes,
mean,
correct.
1.4 billion people is about 15% of the 8 billion people we have on Earth. Okay, so
Correct.
they do have a big influence. Okay, and if we talk about the position and the dominance of China in the international Asian culture, then I would say that like born and
Yes,
raised abroad of China, but Chinese origin. Okay, you have
yeah,
your heritage with all of you. Okay, so you live in Jakarta right now, but you grew up
correct,
in Singapore, so that means that you have your own heritage that you bring along. Okay, and still
correct,
you recognize yourself as a Chinese. Okay,
correct.
which is very important. But then when you go back to China, you have difficulties to arrange yourself to the local customs. Okay, so
Correct.
this kind of situation are in a continuous conflict. I can say that there will be a very strong influence about what China did, and China will definitely try to dominate all the international business aspects. And the only reason why they can do it is because they have a very large audience to refer to.
Correct.
I mean, besides the 1.4 billion people in China, there is, I wouldn't say as much, but there is about 30% of it is around the world, and it
Correct. Correct.
is and the capacity to receive a message from the motherland, okay, is very strong. Now,
Correct.
China is so much advanced in technology, in commerce, and everything because
Absolutely.
they were not bringing along the weight of a precedent eras. For instance, why China is number one mobile-driven country, simply because China never had computers before. They
Hmm,
were manufacturing PCs, but they were not using them because they were too expensive for them at that time. So once I had an handheld device which costed less than $100, okay, that was a boom. Everybody could afford it, and uh,
correct.
and and so and so all the ecosystem around this device was created on purpose for that specific market. And this is
Hmm,
why China in their ecosystem is so strong, and we have a lot to learn from them. Okay.
hmm,
Now,
that is true.
now taking this back into Asia. Okay,
Yes.
Asia, as the rest of Asia, has been open to Western technologies and Western backgrounds. Okay,
Correct.
so we are talking over Facebook. We wouldn't have had this conversation on Facebook if we were from China. We would have had this conversation over WeChat or over Weibo or any other platform. Okay, or we would have made some short videos on TikTok, on Douyin. Okay, but this is to tell you that we are going to adapt ourselves to the market where we face to. China
Correct.
is a great market. China has a lot to teach us, and we have a lot to learn from China. But say this, it doesn't mean that China is the only answer to our problems. I
Correct.
believe that in Indonesia there are certain infrastructures that works better than Facebook, WeChat, Weibo, and so on. Okay, and I
Yes.
believe
Correct.
that
Our
exactly,
e-commerce now, Tokopedia, Bukalapak, and in fact, Gojek is actually one of our unicorns. We just made a
absolutely.
$1 billion investment on that. Correct.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so these ecosystems will work for your country, which is a huge country with a lot of people, okay, and with a beautiful background and heritage and religion issues as well, okay, which
Yep. Correct.
if you look at China, there is no religion because if you ask them if they believe in God, they say yes, I believe in Xi Jinping, okay, so I mean, Xi Jinping now is their God, is their leader. Okay, so that's the answer to their problems. So whatever Xi Jinping decide, then it's good for the country, and everybody's gonna
Yep.
do it. So it's very easy, or let's say it's much easier for such a country to decide the trajectory to follow, to decide the path to grow, and say within 5 years, for instance, 2 years ago, the government of Shenzhen said that by 2020 there will be no more, there will be only electric taxi. Well, last year, there, since last year now there are only electric taxi, no more gas taxi, no more gasoline taxi. So they anticipated 2 years, 1.5 year, the results of what they have had in mind. Okay, and they can do that because they can force and convince people that is good and that's what they want. So
Mm.
it's much easier for them to get into certain results just because they are a unique ecosystem. Now, for
Indeed.
us, it will be difficult, but it's not that impossible. I mean, it will be maybe longer time to take it, but we will get into a universal ecosystems where I can open a web shop in Italy and tell you that my ice cream, deeply frozen ice cream, can be delivered to Jakarta within
Gelato.
24 hours. And then you receive a product in Jakarta, and you'll eat it the day after. Why not?
Okay. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that. There's recently, I've been reading. There's actually something called the One Belt One Road initiative, whereby China is trying to
Yes,
build
yes, yes,
a gigantic train that will connect within the Asia Pacific region. Yeah. So
yes,
in terms of this, right? Earlier you mentioned when in your younger years, when you were having an issue with your partner, one of maybe at that time, it after hearing about it, of course we understand you were just being emotional because that is something to do with a partnership with work. At that time earlier you mentioned an Italian characteristic, yeah. So I was actually doing a bit of my own research. Sorry, I'm the host, so I need to find out about this more. uh, there's actually a study by the Hofstede team that an Italian's combination of high masculinity and high avoidance make them incredibly passionate whenever they are approaching something. And you have demonstrated that earlier or last time. So, what for an Easterner and a Westerner, what can they actually learn from each other? Just as how the One Belt One Road initiative is actually supposed to connect China's economy with outside of their country. So, what can an Easterner and a Westerner actually learn? A cultural exchange that can be done in order to improve their characteristic and perspective.
It's an important question. Okay, I mean, we could
Yeah.
talk about this for the next couple of hours if you want. Um, you see, I've been engaged by the Italian government to be into a project called Task Force China,
Wow.
which was behind the setting up of and the signature of a memorandum of understanding that President Xi Jinping signed with our government for the Belt and Road Initiative. I like to remind you that Italy was the only country in Europe, and the first and only country in Europe that signed this agreement, this memorandum of understanding. Um, the purpose of the MOU and the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI, is definitely a purpose of trade. I mean, we're only
Sure.
talking about commerce, we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about products. It's not a purpose of a cultural exchange. I never heard anything but mention about it, and
Okay.
it's a problem. It's a problem because there is this needs to understand what the Chinese mindset in business is,
Correct.
and for these, what I did, I have set up a masterclass here in Italy, in an Italian university based in Venice. And the masterclass will be held in December, the first week of December, where I will teach China business strategies and the business mindset behind it. So that all the European entrepreneurs who want to face China as a business partner or want to enter China in the market, or want to be ready for when China will come to their front door, knocking it and say, hey, I'm here, I want to buy your business or I want to buy your products. Okay, they are going to be ready to understand what's behind the strategies that China has in terms of a business, okay, which is completely different from what European Westerners are used to. So it's in answer to your question is that the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, is not a matter of mutual cultural exchange. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of opening up doors for a faster and a more efficient
Sure.
commerce distribution. Okay,
Ah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
China is getting their hands on many different places in terms of
Correct.
seaports, railways, roads, infrastructure, bridges, tunnels, and everything, just to make these things happen and have a control of it. Now, one thing is very interesting, and I'm not going to talk about politics, okay? But
Sure.
I just want to point out one thing. Look at what happened recently between the trade war between China
Yep.
and the United
Hong Kong.
States, okay? No, not Hong Kong, China and the United States. I'm talking
Oh,
about the
apologies.
tariff issues, okay? Where the Trump government decided that China couldn't sell as much easier as before their products into their country because they are afraid that China would control over the technology that will guide
Sure.
America. Okay, so with the 5G issues and so on, so everything started from this. And if you look at it, it was the very first time that America opened their eyes and said, oh, someone is going to use a technology that we cannot control, while it was always there for the rest of the world, when the rest of the world always accepted passively American technology to control over whatever was in the communication field. Okay, so
Correct.
it's a very interesting point. Okay, so it's the very first time that a Western country realized that there is someone else controlling what they do and what they say and how they store data and what's in their data. Okay, and they are afraid of what they could do with that. Okay, so behind everything there is a matter of ethics, and
Hmm.
ethics is the key answers to be into international business. Okay, as
Hmm.
long as your ethics makes you a good businessman, then you will always reach result with success. If the
Correct.
ethics you have are not correct, then your results will still suck and you will not be doing a good job.
Yep. That's actually a really wise word. That's really, really wise, actually. A lot of what your perspective is actually do not generalize them. It's actually more of just, okay, what would be something that if, let's say, I do not like it, others will definitely not like it, so I shouldn't have done it. Am I right to say that? That's how you've been approaching the
That's
business for
correct.
2 years.
Yes, that's correct.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Okay, I actually have one last question, and this is something that actually I asked this to all of my guests, but for yours is actually something that's quite interesting. You mentioned that when you first come to, I believe it was Taipei, you found that that place is your El Dorado, yeah? So in
Yes,
for the general audience, El Dorado is the city of gold. So it's
yes.
actually the place where it's considered the dream. It's a phrase to use, the dream place. What would be three advices that you would give to a young man or a young woman who is now maybe is they are just out of university or now they are in a crossroad of their life in their career? What three advices would you give to them? Because at the age of 19 you found your El Dorado, but not everybody might not be so lucky to do so. So how would you advise them?
Okay, first of all, I found my first Eldorado at the age of 19.
Yep.
It's plenty of Eldorado. I mean, it's plenty of places, physical places and virtual places where you can dig down and find solution which will make you feel good about it. Okay, and and saying that, and not as a gold digger, saying that as
No, no, no.
a one who's pursuing one simple thing, which is feeling good with what you do and reaching results for what you do. Okay, so
Sure.
your question. What suggestions can I give to a young man or a young woman who want to go for it? Okay, first of all, you will never be ready enough to face the problem you will encounter. So don't try to find answer to your question before the questions comes to you. Okay,
Sure.
just go for it. You have an idea, you have a goal you'd like to reach, you have a passion you like to develop. Okay, just take your chance and go.
Correct.
The answers will come on your way. Okay, so it's very important for that. I know a lot of people, they go like, yeah, I just finished to study high school, I have a big project in my mind, but I first want to take a BA program, I first want to get my PhD. Okay, and I said, fine. Okay, so the PhD is your first goal, the PhD is what you want to do. No, 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 it's not this, I'd like to do the other one, but I think I'm not ready enough. Okay, well, after your PhD, you will still think you're not ready enough because you have not learned anything for what you really have to do. Life is not just about your project. Life is about everything. You need to know everything, how to run business, how to get partners, how to get
Correct.
money, how to invest, how to develop the products, and so on. So it's just not a matter of the technical part of your product itself. Okay, you need to be able to create an ecosystem around you that works. You need to find the partnership, you need to find support, you need to ask questions to get the answers, and that's the way you have to go. So just don't feel like that you're not ready. Okay, if you have a big idea in mind, just take and go for it. Okay, just listen to your guts. That's my very first answer to it. Secondly, be always humble. Don't think
That's
that you're
true.
smarter than anyone. I mean, there are so many people smarter than you, and you don't even realize that. Okay, so that means that finding tricky way to get results, it is not the easiest and fastest path
Correct.
to get the results itself. So be yourself, be humble, okay, and ask for help. And then it comes to my third suggestions I would give, uh, which is very tricky also, this one. Never be afraid to disclose information.
Mm.
What you know is what you personally have achieved with your life.
Correct.
What the people knows, okay, is what you like to tell them. So what happens is that if you have an idea, you think that people may copy you, and so you're not disclosing this idea with others, okay, the idea will stay forever with you until you realize it. If you can do everything by yourself, then it's fine, then good, go for it. But if you cannot do everything by yourself, I really wonder where will you go. So
Correct.
yes, there are a lot of people who are there ready to take your ideas and realize it, but they will realize what they can do, not what you would have done. So if you need information, if you need partnership, if you need things like that, just go and ask for help, express. And when you
Correct.
condivide, I mean, when you share your ideas with others, you will see that you will always add value to it because others can give you feedbacks, and so you know what's going on. These are my free advices.
I'm glad I actually executed two of it. The reason being was that when I actually created this channel at that time, I just really do not have any idea about it. All I know is that I want to create a content that can give a value to people. And like individuals such as yourself who has been exploring different countries away from your home. So at that time, I thought this is my own experience as a third culture kid. So I thought, okay, this is something that can add value because if you actually know what is going on in that country, because while books such as Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands, there's a book called that was created in the 1940s or so to actually teach
Mm-hmm.
about other cultures. Or, in fact, I've actually always used the Hofstede Cultural Dimension website. While these are extremely helpful, they are not a real life experience. The difficulties, the ups and downs that you encounter in the different countries. Like if let's say you don't know enough about Singapore, you wouldn't have known that Singapore is actually not just comprised of Chinese, like how they portray it in the Crazy Rich Asian movie. There's actually at least four kinds of ethnicity there, four kinds of races, and well, there's actually a lot more because the primary group that has been considered in Singapore is actually Chinese, Malay, Indian, and Eurasian. So this is actually, I'm glad you actually really said that. So really, thank you so much, Alberto.
You're very welcome.
Okay, this is actually my last question. So, do you have anything you want to mention? I believe you are currently writing a book. Maybe you want to share about that so that when the people that are viewing this, they or those that I will be recommending this video to, they have an idea about what your book is about. So they most likely they will be interested since a lot of people would love to expand to China. So maybe you want to share a bit more on that before we go off.
Oh, thank you. The book is about my personal experience doing business in China. So I am I have actually found out that there are certain patterns that repeat themselves, certain situations that I found myself very often into. And during my consulting job, I have a lot of enterprise that comes to me and asks me if and how to solve problems. If I can help them to solve certain problems they had with the Chinese partners or Chinese suppliers or Chinese distribution or stuff like that. And the problems are always the same. Okay, and and so what I wanted to tell people is that I don't have answers to all problems, but I
Yeah,
do recognize patterns. These patterns always lead to certain problems, and these problems are always recognizable ahead. So if you see these problems before that, then you may be able to handle your business in a more profitable way, and you won't feel like allow me to say, but feeling cheated, by
yeah,
the situation. Okay, because you were aware of it before. So if you still want to go on with your initiative, and then it turns out to be a wrong decision, but at least you knew it before and you knew what you risked it for. So
correct.
it's important to understand that. These things, and since I have seen it many times, I decided to put it down in a small book so that I could hand it over to the people I talk to, and eventually publish it on Amazon for people to buy and read it. So it's a story of my business life, and seeing how things get repeated time but every time, it's supposed to be not educative. I'm not giving the answer to all the problems, but I'm opening up the eyes to people who are facing this situation. So it's a good read for either the expert one and the novice one. So they could find it useful, both of them.
All right. Okay then. That will be all for me. Alberto, do you have anything else? Do you want to say?
No, well, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. It's been nice
Thank
talking
you.
to you. Feel free
You're
to
most
call me
welcome.
back anytime you want. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alberto. All right. Have a good day.
Take care. Bye bye. You too.
Bye.
Ciao.